ahead of programs every month, and this month we're having a very good program. And Cheryl and Jeff is our Jeff is our speaker, and he's talking about llamas. And would you like to say anything before I turn it all over to you?
I didn't know exactly what this was going to look like, so it isn't a real formal presentation. I am happy to take questions at any time. Something comes to mind, shout it out. I'll be glad to talk about it.
Okay, so
All right, everybody comfy? We're going to go to a couple of places now. So I've been packing with llamas since 1997. I got them originally to go on some hunting trips and to help me carry out elk. You know, hopefully that's optimistic because I didn't get very many very often, but I had my pack buddies along, and I started doing more and more hikes during the summer, and then so I've got 9 llamas at the moment. I typically will take as many as 7 out on a hike. And all of the trails, we typically hike on the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, and all the trails that are open to horses are also open to llamas. And so we get out and about. And since I retired, I now have a outfitting guiding permit with the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, and I'm doing commercial trips each summer. So being asked to come talk to a potential group of clients is perfect. So I'm going to tell you about llamas to start with and what I've learned with them over the while. And these are pictures that we've got of llamas out on the trail in different areas. And they typically will carry 60 to 80 pounds, depending on how far you're going and how much elevation you're carrying. That's normally a pretty manageable load for them. On a short bit, you know, I'll put a 5-gallon cubitainer on each side, and they'll take 100 pounds and go a mile with it easily. That's not a problem for them. They're darn strong and they're darn nimble on the trail. They're pretty sure-footed. They don't stumble very often. They can go up and down pretty steep ground. Typical range is about 10 miles. Depending on the elevation that you've got. You can get them in good enough shape if you got good athletes like I do. I can get them in shape to do longer trips than that. 20 miles is the longest day I've done with them. But you got to work them up to that. You just grab them and expect them to do that, you may be disappointed. You've probably heard that llamas spit. They do. Currently, of the 9 that I've got, 8 of them have never spit at a person. The other one had never been prone to do that until after she had her first cria, and I separated them at 6 months of age so that the cria could be weaned. She took that real personally, and if I even look sideways at her now, she's likely to spit at me. I've got to approach her very carefully. So she's really touchy. The rest of them are not, but they do know how to do that. If you get them upset enough, they will. And it's really kind of akin to horses nipping. You know, they do that to protect their space, and I get caught crossfire now and then. But a well-trained horse will not ever nip its handler, and a well-trained llama will not spit its handler. Unless you take their baby away. Then duck. And out on the trail, I typically bring along about 1 pound per day per llama of dry pellets. You know, they look like rabbit pellets. You get them through the feed store. And I'll supplement their feed with that and then do a little browsing along the trail. If you've got really nice grass in the areas that you're going to and they've got plenty of time, then you don't have to take anything for them. When I've done a trip or two in the Eagle Cap wilderness area, there was plenty of grass around. They didn't want to go home, you know. But the advantages I find of using llamas on the trail primarily is safety. They're not going to be very likely to injure you. I could say they don't kick. They can kick. I've been kicked 3 times in the 23 years that I've had them, and I've not injured by all 3 of them. I got kneecapped last year by a young one when I was tying the rope onto the saddle, and I pulled some hair with it, and he kicked back right quick and got me right square in the kneecap. But they've got soft feet, and they're it's nothing like getting kicked by a horse or a mule, and they're good on trails. They're a lot easier than a shod animal on the trail. They typically weigh 300 to 350 pounds, and they've got a track that looks a lot like an elk. I've had archery hunters stalking me before they. Oh, I thought we were into a big herd right on the trail. No, sorry. And in that sense, they are a lot easier on the trail, and they're a little easier if, I've seen horses paw a big well around a tree when they've been tied to it and they're really very anxious. Much less prone to get that kind of damage to the area that you're in with the llamas. And that's the first part. I've got 4 parts that I'm going to talk about here. So that's the first. So you can see lots of pictures of llamas out on the trail. The second, for getting out and having a good time, the second ingredient that I like to add is people. So I'm going to introduce my guide, Denise.
Hi, Denise.
On the trip, we do the trips together, and that's during the solar eclipse. We're at that's Dark Meadow, and I know there's a lot of experience in the room here, and you've seen a lot of places. If you when we get to the scenery, I'm going to see if who can identify the slides that I've got and where they're at. So a lot of them should be familiar. Out with groups of scouts. We took 2 different groups of scouts out last summer, and that was educational. It's been a long time since I've been out with scouts. I did not know, or I had forgotten several important things. Do you know why gorillas have such large nostrils? Big fingers. So it's entertaining going out with the scouts for sure. So we've got lots of folks that have gone out on the trips, and you can see that's part of what makes them pretty special to go do. Lots of different places. This is Juniper Ridge. Anybody know where that is? It's near the CISPA Center. All of these pictures, most all these are on the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. And this is right around Dark Meadow, which is the southern edge of Juniper Ridge, right where it intersects with the boundary trail.
And did you say that you do the cooking?
Oh, we'll get to that. Yes, I do. And I put quite a bit of effort into doing a good job with Dutch ovens out in the backcountry. And we'll have some pictures. Sorry if did that cover them all? Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to go to cooking. So I've spent some years practicing with Dutch ovens, and I've got a couple of aluminum Dutch ovens. I'll usually bring 1 or 2 along on the trip, and some coolers. So for the first 3 days we get fresh food, and sometimes some little fresh fish, little shrimp stir fry that particular night.
That's good camp. Cherry pie.
Yep. Yeah, all fresh and hot out in the backcountry. It's
fresh baked bread the first night. Oh, the smell of that. You just just don't expect that.
So we also bring along a little charcoal. It's a little more challenging if you're going to do Dutch oven cooking without the charcoal briquettes. When you're just doing it right out of a fire and using coals, it's a lot more difficult to know just how hot you're getting that and how long it needs to sit there. But I've learned when you're cooking, if it smells burnt, it is. If it smells done, it is. If you can't smell it, it's not done yet. Leave it alone.
Last summer, the pictures of those little round, those were apple skeevers. And we had picked huckleberries on our way from one place to the other, and so we were able to add those to the apple skeevers, and then we added some to the apple pie that you did in the Dutch oven.
All right, this is the last ingredient is some nice scenery, some beautiful scenery. So feel free to shout out if you recognize the place. I'm going to let them run all through there, and then when we start going through the second time, I'll start identifying them for you.
Do you guys camp out there?
Our trips are 3 to 5 days in length. So these are backcountry trips. Most of it's non-wilderness.
What do you mean non-wilderness?
Non-wilderness. So we've got congressionally designated wilderness areas within the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. They're busy. The areas that are not in the wilderness areas, nobody visits. Yeah. We go out for days, we don't see anybody. Yeah.
Where is your company located?
Castle Rock.
Oh, so they're not Llamas.
No.
What's the cost of the trip?
The 3-day trip is $995, and there's a 25% reduction for under 18. And the 5-day trip is $1,595. So that's the range. So they're just that one is Spectacle Lake in Alpine Lakes Wilderness area. I threw some scenery pictures in where I went deer hunting this last fall, but that's not within the area that we service.
What's the maximum number of people you take on outing?
4 typically, but with the scouts we'll take up to 8.
And then does the individual supply the equipment, or is that supplied by you? Or
I've got equipment for rent at $22 a night, which includes a tent, sleeping bag, a nice pad, and so if you don't have equipment, we can supply it.
And typically, each client is allotted 25 to 30 pounds of, tent, sleeping bag, personal clothes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, most of the trip it's 30 pounds, but we've got one trip that is a 4-day trip through the Goat Rocks along the Knife Edge. If you've not done that hike, it is spectacular. But and that one's already booked this year. Sorry, but that is we got to be only taking 4 llamas on that trip, so it's a minimalist, lightweight, ultra lightweight trip, and we're doing because we got to cover 43 miles in 4 days.
do you guarantee good weather?
Nope. we got creamed one day out with the scouts. We got 1.5 inches of rain. It was in the low 40s, and so do you think in a windy? It was windy enough to blow chairs around and flies off of tents. 6 scouts can start a fire with wet wood in a storm like that? No, they can't. Can Guide Denise do that? Yes, she can.
Does anyone have dogs on these trips?
I do.
You bring dogs.
I bring one dog. On most of the trips, I bring one trail dog. And there is.
They go on these trips and they bring the dogs.
That wouldn't be an advisable idea. I'd say generally not.
But you have a
I do, and she takes up she's well trained, takes up the back of the pack string, and would be, if I ran into a situation with a bear or a cougar, she would be manageable and helpful, as contrasted to what most dogs would be, which is a problem. And that's her part of her purpose is to look after the back of the pack string.
You have a great big truck, you carry all those llamas in.
I've got a trailer that I hooked to my truck. I've got a
Trailer, and how many llamas will fit in the trailer?
7.
Oh, you have a 7 llama trailer.
It's a slant 3-horse trailer, but it works fine for 7 llamas. So we ready for some scenery identification here? I haven't heard too many guesses.
You shout it out.
All right. Well,
Can you pause it so we can get a better look at it? Stop and go.
yes, I can. So you're looking at Mount Rainier on the northern edge of Juniper Ridge. So Spud Mountain, Tongue Mountain. And this is Dark Meadow, where that trail ties in with the boundary trail. Named not because of a lack of light, but named after John Dark, a prospector in the 1910s, I think, who built a cabin up at this meadow. This is in the Mount Adams Wilderness area, looking north at Rainier. Same. That is the dog.
What's the dog?
Dog's name is Pixie.
The best behaved dog you'll ever come across.
She was professionally trained, and she is a sweetheart. She's a lab. So Mount Adams, and I believe that's the headwaters of the Lewis River that we're looking at there that we cross over.
I think that was at the top of the Killian Creek, where Killian Creek, where it comes up to the PCT.
Yeah. So this is, what's the name of the meadow?
Foggy Flats.
This is Foggy Flat. It starts at Muddy Meadows and you go up to Foggy Flat. With Rainier in the background. Here's Goat Rocks. This is the start of the hike going up to Pompey Peak. We do a 3-day hike up there. And there's a lookout, and you got to gain about 500 feet elevation to get up on the ridge, and then it's pretty much a level trail most of the way out. But it just works alongside the cliff. It's pretty. It's remarkably pretty. So this is Vanson Lake. Anybody been up there? Due north of Spirit Lake, and this is one picture of Dead Man Lake, also up in this is the monument, and this is a picture right by Jumbo Peak, looking out at Rainier. I mean at Mount Adams.
Is there a reason you put a fence around the area?
Great question. Yes, there is. That's to make sure we don't get we don't make a bear habituated to, we try very hard to practice leave no trace ethics while we're out there. And we don't want to get a habituated bear at all. So
what does the fence have to do with that?
that's an electric fence.
You put an electric fence around your camp?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Ah, that's it.
The options are for us to keep it, to make sure bears don't ever get in to scrap food. Does
the dog have any trouble with the electric fence?
No.
She knows to go under it.
Yep. She doesn't bother it.
Okay.
If it's there, she's not. So in these areas, the bear hunting is open, and as a consequence, all the bears that I've run across have seen me and lit out of there like their tail was on fire. It's amazing how much a bear can tear up a hill. Well, we want to keep it that way. We want to make sure that so we could hang our food up and our trash up, or we can put an electric fence around it. In a lot of areas, you don't have really nice setup with trees to do a bear hang, and that's harder than it sounds to get a good effective bear hang. It takes.
It sounds hard.
You can keep a group of scouts busy all afternoon trying to hang a pack up in a tree.
Yeah. That's Cowlitz Valley.
Yes, this is the lookout, Pompey Peak lookout site, looking down at the Cowlitz Valley, and you can see really from Morton almost up to White Pass from this lookout. So there's another picture looking up towards, or is that back towards Morton? Yeah, that's back towards Morton. Dead Man Lake in the monument. We've got a lovely 5-day trip that we do that's 23 miles that covers the Green River, Vanson Lake, Dead Man Lake, and Goat Mountain Trail, and back down to the starting point by the Green Mountain Horse Camp. That's a fun trip. And that's a lake in Alpine Lakes Wilderness Area. More pictures from Alpine Lakes. That's Spectacle Lake in Alpine Lakes. That's Mount Daniel area. If that's not Mount Daniel, it might be. Really rugged, beautiful country up there. The hike from Snoqualmie Pass up to Stevens Pass would just knock your socks off with the scenery. This is Deep Lake in that same area. This is right by Cathedral Rock. This is from the Eagle Cap Wilderness Area. This is up by Polaris Pass. Same. And that's Fraser Lake in Eagle Cap, and that is Ice Lake in Eagle Cap. So now we're getting close to Goat Rocks. So you can see Goat Lake nestled in that bowl. And a little more, that's the ridge, Goat Ridge that comes down from Goat Lake. That's a challenging hike to do that in a day. It's like about an 18-mile round trip.
Oh, no.
Where do you go from where to where?
Well, you'd start at the either Chambers Lake or the Berry Patch Trailhead, and you'd hike up through Snowgrass Flat and take that trail. It heads up towards Lily Basin, and when you get to Goat Lake, then you get up on the ridge and work your way down it.
How far do you normally go average a day?
Typically it's 5 or 6 miles, but we've got some days that are up to 13 miles on the Goat Rocks hike. Everything else, the longest day is 8 miles. And we've got one hike that's easy. That's 3 miles in and out on the Upper Lewis River. The other hikes are moderate to strenuous, or in the case of Goat Rocks, very strenuous. We have 3,000 foot vertical and 13 miles, and the trail's not good trail. That's a strenuous day. So this is along the Pacific Crest Trail in Goat Rocks, and we're in the Knife Edge area, so you're seeing part of that. I don't know if you can see it very well, but the trail, let me see if I can zoom in on this. Here. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it's extraordinary. I've talked to I'm section hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in my spare time, and I do like hiking. And a lot of through hikers have told me that if they had to pick the one best day, the Sierra Nevadas are beautiful, the North Cascades are beautiful, but the one best day on the whole trail, they would pick Goat Rocks as being the most extraordinary day of the whole trip. And
How wide is that up on that ridge?
What?
there's some areas on this trail where it's really steep off of both sides, and it's only this wide.
Do these follow game? Is that how they would? Is that what they started as?
The PCT, that was strictly Maine.
Oops.
Okay.
I would say that they followed game trails there and some of that. Here you can see zoomed in a little bit more. This isn't the most rugged part of the trail by any means, but and here's looking down Upper Lake Creek, and you can just see a little bit of Packwood Lake in the distance, and of course Rainier with a nice lenticular cloud on it. That's Mount Johnson, or Johnson Peak, whatever that's called, and Packwood Glacier on your left. So here's a little bit more of the trail. A little more of it. It crosses a couple of glaciers that you got to side hill your way through. Snowfields, really. They call them glaciers, but they're not moving on you. Yeah. So looking back down, and here we're coming up to Elk Pass and the Coyote Trail, and then here we're back on Juniper Ridge. So those are all the pictures that I happen to put on the thumb drive for showing you tonight. But we got 10 hikes planned next summer, and we're excited about it. And if you guys want to come along on any of them, I've got some of the cards and you can get to our website and see what hikes we've got and the days they're offered, and contact us, grab a card, give me a call. Love to do it. Love to go out.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you should join our club.
Thank you.